Well, strategically, the first reason to do digital was not to replace our print magazine. Our members overwhelmingly told us that they did not want us to eliminate the print issue. Also, a pretty large number of our members were also telling us that they would like a digital edition. They'd like a digital option. So our philosophy has always been from the very beginning that the digital issue is augment to our print, that it's an additional distribution channel. We also viewed the digital edition as a way to increase our own visibility outside of our membership and outside of our readership month. So it was twofold. It was a way to deliver content to our members in another channel, a different distribution channel, and also very much as a PR and marketing vehicle for us to help increase our exposure outside of our membership base.
You know, a lot of the associations out there now are thinking about going digital, and maybe some of their boards might not be so on board and that kind of stuff. Maybe, do you have any tips or thoughts that you might be able to give to some of those other associations about how to bring them on board?
Sure. You know, we also believed, and I think you'll see it, that long term, the future of print advertising and print magazines that are supported 100% by advertising are going to go, I believe, at some point in the future, whether that's 5 years or 10 years, probably the way of the dinosaur. That doesn't mean we won't still be printing. As a matter of fact, we may be printing even more things. It's just that our online component will probably be where we're generating the revenue to support those printed pieces. So the first place to start with a board is that this is about evolution. This is about investing now so that you have the platform available when those traditional advertising revenue places start to dry up. And you don't have to bet the farm on moving to a digital edition. Matter of fact, the solutions out there are phenomenal for cost-wise. So that's the first thing, is you say, we know the world's changing. So it is about laying the foundation for the future. And that's where you should start. You shouldn't start with any of the bells and whistles. You shouldn't start about how cool it is. You can certainly have the conversation about changing member demographics. That certainly, as Gen Y and the post-Y generation show up, they're definitely going to want a digital publication. But that's still some amount of time.
Going back to the advertising stuff you were just talking about, that's one of the biggest concerns. I've talked to a number of association communications professionals, and that's one of the biggest concerns that they have is how moving to digital is going to affect their advertisers. And it sounds like you guys have kind of made it an added benefit to advertising in your print edition. Any thoughts on folks who go fully digital, how they can either utilize that or ways to make the advertisers not scared about
Sure.
only advertising digital?
Well, certainly as you move to a more digital, if you move to an all-digital platform, advertisers are going to want reporting. I mean, the one thing we all know on traditional print is that we have, you don't know for sure exactly who looked at the ad. And so, I know a couple of associations that if they have transitioned to a digital, they actually lowered their ad rates. They didn't keep their ad rates the same. They actually said, you know what, we don't know if we're going to be able to deliver value out of the gate, but we want you still here. So we're going to start, and they literally cut them in half. They lowered their revenue, but they lowered their expenses as well. Within 6 months, they had such targetable, trackable results that they were able to triple their ad rates because they could actually deliver results. So I think the mistake many associations make is they go to an all-digital publication and they don't build the reality in that it takes time to build traffic. So that's kind of our plan too, to build traffic to the digital edition so that over time we can actually then go back and say, here's, we pay attention to click-throughs, who's clicking through ads. If I notice in particular that one particular advertiser seems to get a number of click-throughs to their ad, we feed that information back up to our ad reps so that the ad reps can go back and go, by the way, I don't know if you know, but you're the #1 ad. And then they say, oh, I'm getting value from that. It's a challenge because many advertisers that advertise in association publications are not the advertisers necessarily that are making the decisions to advertise in publications like People and Time, where they're beginning to look at that concept of, I'd rather have 10 click-throughs that count, because most agencies that place advertising are still in the game of, I want 3,000 eyeballs or 30,000 eyeballs. Digital is going to allow us to deliver eventually the 10 people who really care. But how do we price that? And that gets a little more complicated. So you have to be very methodical and very deliberative.
Your advertising answer, you mentioned the metrics and that kind of stuff a little bit, and you said you guys track click-throughs and inbound Google hits and that kind of stuff. what else, or either what else are you going to track, or how have you seen the metrics? I mean, that's one of the, to me,
Sure.
it seems like one of the best things about having a digital
sure.
magazine is the ability.
We also noticed that as you can tell who's a return visitor, and it's possible sometimes to track back to who that return visitor is. So you can actually go out and talk to people who are return visitors and say, why are you here? What, would you mind letting me talk to you? So I did actually go out and talk to a few of our forum readers who were all Generation Y and younger. So young Gen X's, but primarily Gen Y, who were reading the Forum magazine. And I said, I think it's great you're reading Forum. What do you think of digital edition? And they said, I love the digital edition. I'm so glad I have it. And I said, oh, excellent. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. I said, what do you love about it? And they said, I can use the digital edition to decide what I'm going to read in the print. That was not the thing I was expecting. Right. And for me, that also tells us that the print version still has real value. No matter how old you are, that people enjoy reading Forum magazine. We've found out that we're a personal time read, and that's the best thing you can ever be, is that private time read, and we are. And so now that I know that the digital edition is a tool to help people better experience the magazine, then it's worth everything that we've done.
Sure. Some of the best, I think, some of the best learning experiences for people who are thinking about going to do a specific thing is to hear maybe about some of the pitfalls you've had, sure, or things that may not have worked exactly as you wanted them. Can you talk anything about any of those? Or
Sure. We were very realistic about what our expectations were, and very clear about our strategy. So the biggest pitfall you can have is to misread where your members are. And it would have been a complete disaster for us to eliminate the print edition. I mean, they would have shown up on the river with torches, and we'd have a new CEO for an entirely different reason. We didn't do that. Other organizations I know one organization who did a comprehensive readership survey and found out that their publication was not important to their members. That they were putting all this money into this thing that the staff thought was so important, but yet to its members there was really very little value. But what was really interesting is their members said actually the content in the magazine is quite valuable. We just don't find the magazine that valuable. So they've used interesting, right? So they've used a digital publishing platform to actually digitally publish mini magazines. They're delivering the content in digestible, and then instead of selling many advertisers, they sell one advertiser into that, and the advertiser gets to brand the heck out of it. Members love it, because members are going, you're giving me exactly what I need. If they had just digitized their magazine that didn't have value to begin with, it would have failed. Sure. Because their members would have said, great, now I can use digital time to read something that I don't find valuable. So, I mean, the biggest pitfall is that you don't actually pay attention, and if you are moving to digital to save money on printing costs, you will fail, because that is not the reason to move to digital. And that would be the biggest pitfall. And that was one of the pitfalls even our very supportive leadership said is, oh good, if you move to digital, then when can we stop doing print? We can save money. And I'm like, well, probably 10 years from now, maybe 5. Certainly within 10, we'll have a different delivery model. So that would be the biggest pitfall.
Parting thoughts. It sounds as though strategy is having a good strategy is one of the really main things, yes, that you have to have.
Yes, and when we presented this to leadership and continue to have the conversation, I did not expect that our digital edition would generate additional revenue for at least 2 to 3 years. And so for year 1, I had no revenue pressure whatsoever. Mm-hmm. We funded it. We knew it would be a loss. We knew it would be a cost. As we now move into year 2, we will begin to identify where we can perhaps get some revenue, and ideally by year 3, we'll be able to generate revenue. That was our decision. Now, there's other organizations that within months of launching their digital edition, it's become a substantial revenue source for them. But we were very deliberate up front that we didn't want this to be about driving more revenue. We wanted it about laying a foundation for the future. So that would be my last major caveat or advice to anyone is be very realistic on the revenue. It's definitely there. There's no question. But all of the vendors will tell you the swan song and the super story of, oh, associations can triple their advertising revenue with this, and yes, but most yes, I'm just gonna say yes, but, or if we were at Disney, yes, and.
Right.